Hey, so I thought I'd come on here and do a quick video. I got a bunch of horseweed growing that I'm harvesting for an upcoming class on friction fires. So I thought I'd show you what horseweed actually looks like and how we process it down and get it to a friction fire. Here's an up close look at it of all the flowers and of the puff ball. You see it has little poofs right there. And then the little leaves on the stalk. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for stalks that are, relatively long, about the length of probably my forearm, and about a 1/2 inch thick. So you see that's about a 1/2 inch thick. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut off the head where the flowers are, or the seeds, and then cut off the bottom there. And you see the woody exterior with the pithy center. That's what we're looking for. Here's just another view of what it looks like. Got some there, got some there next to some milkweeds. Got some more over here. It's growing plentiful in my little pasture here. So we're gonna, so like I said, nothing flashy in this video. We're just gonna harvest some up and get ready for a class. So here they are all harvested. Just gonna lay them on the back of my truck for about 24 hours for the remainder of this evening and then all day tomorrow. And we'll check on them in the afternoon or late or early evening tomorrow and start stripping them down and getting them prepared. All right, so it's been about 24 hours, so we're gonna go ahead and process this horseweed to get ready for class starting tomorrow. It's not all the way dry, and a good way that you can test that is that you can just press it up to your cheek here, and if it feels cool, like right there feels a little cool, it's still a little moist, but that's okay because it's step one. I'm not planning on actually making the fires tomorrow. We're just gonna talk about it. But anyways, once this is dried, you can just simply take your fingers and run it along down the spindle here. Okay, and then I like it to be about 2 feet long, which is about from my armpit to my middle finger here. So we'll go ahead and just cut that off. All right, so after all said and done, we got a pretty good bundle of sticks here. Most are about 2 feet long. A couple of them, like this one, is a little shorter just because it got a little wonky, but I'll give this to somebody who has shorter arms. But what we're gonna learn to do tomorrow, well, basically what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna try to teach them step by step how to process I told them to collect horseweed. I'm not anticipating them doing so, but for those that did, I'm going to show them how to process it, and then I have enough that I can share with some folks. But tomorrow we're just going to learn about floating. Okay, and so all I'm going to teach them to do is I'm going to give them hold on. I have a bunch of just flat boards at work from previous projects. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show them how to process down this piece of willow. I'm gonna show them how to process down a hearth board and then their spindles. And then I'm going to have them carve out a little divot on the flat boards, and we're just gonna learn how to float our hands. I feel stupid doing this, but I'm at Hobby Lobby and we're gonna cheat. We're gonna get some dowels to help us practice. I'm gonna pick up 3 sizes. I'm gonna pick up a 1/2 inch, a 7/16, and a 3/8 inch dowel. So you can either get them in the really long dowels for just like, let's say $1.29, or you can get them into these packages of 8 for a few more bucks. Since I'm gonna be giving classes, I'm gonna get the packages,
And all these are is for practice. These aren't for actually making anything of substance. These are just for practicing technique.
And once you have your dowels from Hobby Lobby, and I guess they have them at Walmart too, or even Lowe's, you're just going to practice your technique. You're not going to focus so much on you're not trying for an ember. You're just going to focus on your technique. So you just need something that's going to hold the spindle in place. And I recommend just learning how to float. And what's good about this dowel is that, of course, there's no ridges on it. There's no ribbings on it from leaves or from the bark, from stalks like on horseweed or mullein. And so it's nice and smooth. So it's going to protect your hands. So you can sit here and just go nice and slow. Okay? And learn how to float your hands. I know some people say you don't have to, but from what I have experienced, it just makes life a lot easier. So the way we're gonna float our hands is, it's an exaggerated, like, itsy bitsy spider, right? Going up the water spout. I'm gonna start, doesn't matter what hand, my left fingertips on there, and my left, and my right hand, fingers pointing up. My left hand is going to orient down, and I'm just going to go ahead and exaggerate my hand placement in my movements. Now, as I go through from fingertip to palm, whatever hand, where my thumb wiggling right here, whatever hand is in the rear, I guess, is going to be oriented down. That way, as I go, I'm applying downward pressure. Okay? And what that's going to do also is it's going to help hold your spindle in place, and it's also going to get you in the habit of keeping downward pressure on your spindle constantly. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm not going to get right up on it. One, because it's going to limit my motions, and it's also going to constrict my breathing and make it very uncomfortable. So I'm just going to sit back and I'm just going to be comfortable. And I'm just going to go nice and slow. Boom, boom, boom. Nice and slow until I feel comfortable, and then I'm going to start speeding it up. I'm not worrying about pressure. I'm not worrying about getting an ember or anything. I'm just focusing on technique. Okay? And once I get good, then I'm gonna try to go for 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And once I get to 25, if I'm good at 25, let's go for 50. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to build my endurance, right? So you can do this while you're sitting at home, watching TV, watching your favorite YouTube video, okay? And just sit there and just kind of just drift into the noise of whatever it is that you're doing. Just don't even think about it. Just practice, okay? And then practice going with it. Try to go for 30. Try to get to the point where you can go for 30 seconds. Okay. Another technique to point out, or another thing to point out with the technique, is that my arms, right? Again, I'm not going to get all up here because that's going to restrict my movement. I'm going to get out here because then the weight of my arms, especially once they start going down the spindle, the weight of my arms just naturally drifting down the spindle is going to add that pressure versus coming up here and having to push. I'm just going to let my arms just naturally move down eventually just to move down the spindle, right? A couple things that I'm focusing on as I'm doing this is spindle placement. I'm going to make sure that it is staying vertical and it's not rocking. So I'm focusing on keeping it in one place, which is another reason why we go slow. Go slow, ensuring that our hands are good. Our spindle is staying as vertical as possible. I see it wobbling a little bit, but it's not too bad. Now, you're just going to want to practice that. My students, when we have extended training periods, we're practicing for 30 minutes a day. And some days it's like all you're doing is just floating your hands. That's all you're focusing on. And then once you get to that point, well, now you're focusing on the burn in. So you float your hands until you and apply that pressure until you get a nice burn in. So we take it methodical, step by step methodical. So now once you get that technique down for floating your hands, the next part of the puzzle is learning how to burn in. So one thing that I do with my spindles is I go ahead and I knock down any barbs or any bumps or whatever, and then I shave it down to smooth it out to help protect my hand. But from here, I just create my divot, and I'm just gonna go ahead and float my hand. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3. I usually do about 50. And I'll go ahead and burn it in. Now I got the board nice and warmed up. Okay? And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a nice uniform burn around my spindle. What's good about this is like you just find a controlled environment where you can control the temperature and control the humidity, control wind, whatever, just to help you practice and get the skills down. But let me show you a quick tip on how to get your notches perfect, because believe it or not, if your notch isn't perfect, it ain't gonna work, Bubba. Let me show you a quick trick. I don't have my helper here today, so I'm just gonna do this with my one hand. But once you get a good solid burn in, my trick that I just picked up is that I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna go on one side, make a mark, then I'm gonna go on the other side and make a mark, okay? Now, this is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees, right? I want a 45-degree angle as much as possible to get that. Man, I apologize. I'm trying to watch what I'm doing and film at the same time. But I'm gonna go ahead and score, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and score again. There we go. Now I have my outline for my notch. And another thing, my survival knife here, my tip is a 45-degree angle. I picked that up from learning from someone who's done this for several years. He designed his knives to have a 45-degree tip. So I essentially did the same thing. Obviously my knife is wider, but it's a good reference point, 45 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cut out. Different board, different notch, but just so we can keep the train moving. That tip here has to be tight. That way all of your dust can accumulate tightly to form that ember. If it's too loose, then it's not going to coalesce, okay? It also needs to just be shy of center mass. So let's see what we can do with this. Try and get the camera in such a place where you can see what we're doing. So another view, when I warm up my board, is I'm just gonna float my hands. But notice how fast I'm going. I'm not going super fast, and I'm not pushing down so much, okay? Once I get there, and I start warming up my board, as I go down, I'm gonna start to orient my fingers down the pointing down the spindle. That way, as I'm moving down, my fingers are pointing down and I'm driving that force down, versus if my hands are up, I can lose my spindle and my notch. So again, but notice that I'm not going that fast. Then once I get that going, you can see I already got smoke. Not even going that fast. I'm still having a conversation. I'm not crouched over my spindle, restricting my breathing. I can still talk while I work. I'm not gassing myself. I got some smoke, so I'm gonna go a little bit faster. I'm about in 100 beats per minute. Should be able to start seeing that smoke and the dust collecting. Still keeping that same tempo. Once I start seeing that nice black dust, start to speed it up. Probably one more. Okay, and we have our ember. And that's it. All right, so what are a couple of your frustrations? One is that you have to ensure that your material is bone dry. Okay, you can't have any green in it or else it's not gonna work. You're just fighting against the moisture. Number two is you're gonna get sore hands. Work with the dowels, shave your spindles, build up the strength in your hands and the endurance that you need to perform this. You know, you're collecting dust, or let's just say on you're doing everything right, but you're putting too much effort into it. You're sweating, you're breathing hard, you're putting way too much effort into it. Remember, this is a survival fire. So like in a survival situation when you haven't eaten or slept, you don't have that much energy. So if you're putting that much energy into it, you're doing it wrong. And you need to take a step back and reassess. You're gonna get frustrated, just keep going. Figure it out, ask the community. Second or next, what else? You're collecting dust but no ignition. If the dust is collecting around the divot but not falling into the notch, then you need to adjust your notch. If you're getting dust and smoke but no ignition, then there might be an issue with your notch. Like 8 times out of 10, it's your notch that you have to adjust on. And I'm going to do a video later on notch problems. Next is read your dust. If you have like really coarse dust, then you're pressing too hard. If you have nice powdery dust, chocolatey colored dust, you're doing good. And man, just keep practicing. What I have my students do is I have them set up a metronome, and we literally just to get the motions down. And I think we're about 100% success rate. So it seems silly, but it works. Anyways, get out there and practice. Don't lose your minds. This can be accomplished one day. So here to help, but that's it. So catch you later.